Also,
Generalprobe.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Drum Technique podcast. Before we start off, I want to thank everyone for the great feedback we got after releasing the first episode. The comment section on YouTube was filled with great positive feedback, so thank you very much for that. The second episode focuses just like the first one on drumming technique and career advice. By that I mean that I only invite drummers who I think have number one, outstanding skills when it comes to either their hand or their foot technique, or both if possible. And number two, I only invite drummers who are able and willing to share some of their knowledge and best practices. In the comment section of the first Drum Technique podcast, a lot of you asked me to invite a certain drummer who is also from Austria and who has become a pretty big name when it comes to drum covers on YouTube. So right now I'm happy to welcome Diepold as my guest on the Drum Technique podcast. Within the next 45 minutes you're going to learn how David started practicing at the age of 6, how he developed his foot technique, how he set up his bass drum pedals, how he worked on his hand technique, how his hand technique changed pretty recently, and so on. This was actually the first time that I met David in person, and I have to say that I had a great time. He's an awesome drummer and just a great human being. Alright, that's it for this short introduction. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this second episode. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment underneath. Also don't forget to follow us on iTunes and Stitcher. And feel free to contact me if you want a specific drummer to be the next participant on this podcast. Bye. Alright, welcome back to the second episode of the Drum Technique podcast. Today my guest is Mr. David Diepold.
Hello everyone.
Perfect. Let's start right away with question number 1. David, at what age did you start playing drums and did you start to play metal right away?
I did start playing drums when I was 6 years old. I went to a pretty standard music school, which was kind of close to the typical Austrian marching bands we have. So during my first years I mainly focused on developing a proper hand technique and playing rudiments and stuff, but all of that mainly on the practice pad and on the snare drum. So I didn't spend too much time behind the kit.
So actually you got a rudimental background from early on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, that sets you up pretty well for all the metal stuff like single strokes, doubles, if you play doubles in metal, but perfect. Alright.
Yeah.
That answers question number 1. Okay, let's go into the metal direction. Which double bass pedal would you recommend for someone who is just starting out?
Probably just a solid pedal, you know, something that's well manufactured and something that feels good to you. A reliable pedal. And I guess nowadays pretty much every brand offers some good quality pedals, even in the lower price range or mid price range.
That's true.
Yeah.
Would you rather go in the direction A, like chain driven pedals, or direction B, direct drive pedals once you start out for a beginner?
I'd probably say chain drive or maybe strap drive.
A strap drive, yeah. Do you know the Pearl Eliminator strap drive?
Yes,
because I just tried it recently.
Yeah.
It works. You got it.
Yes,
you got
I
this
got
one.
it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we got that question covered. Next question: which double bass pedal are you using right now? I know that you're using a variety of pedals. You use the Axis pedals, the Eliminator, and now the Chargio Copito.
Yes.
So I kind of answered this question, but let's elaborate on that one. Why the Chargio Copito?
Because they're the best balanced pedals out there. I mean, they're so well manufactured and so reliable, never had any issues with them. They're just great. Yeah.
Perfect. But you switched from Axis to the Chargio Copito.
Yeah, exactly. I tried all kinds of pedals. You know, I also once had the Demon Drive and I tried Trick and Axis, of course, and also the Pearl Eliminator. But yeah, Chargio Copito was the best choice for me. Okay,
perfect. Yeah. I got one question about that topic regarding the direct drive pedal. I know your old drum covers, like let's say the Cat Decapitation, Dead Set on Suicide drum cover, which is amazing. I'm a big fan of Dave McGraw, and this cover is like top notch. And back in the days, you used the Axis pedals.
Yeah.
Then, from what I know, actually the Axis pedal, it got old. You needed a new one, and then you tried out different pedals.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got the chance to try the Trick pedal, you tried the Demon Drive.
Yeah.
You could also buy another Axis pedal.
Yes.
You had Axis A longboards, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you went for the Chargio Copito, although you had to wait a couple of months.
Yes.
So really the feel of the pedal And the reliability and the craftsmanship,
Exactly.
that was okay.
Yeah.
And now tell us about your settings when it comes to Chachi Copito.
They're pretty much standard settings, actually. I only changed the beaters. I prefer lighter beaters over heavy beaters.
Okay.
And I just maxed the spring tension, and that's pretty much it. Okay. The rest is almost factory settings, I guess.
Spring tension is at max?
Yes.
Was it the same with the axis pedals?
Yes.
Okay, also
the same. Yeah.
Okay, like really high spring tension.
Yeah.
But do you find it difficult and hard to play mid-tempo stuff with a really, really high spring tension?
I kind of got used to it. At the beginning it was very hard, especially the range between 180 and 200 BPM. But yeah, right now it feels good to me.
Yeah, because you're constantly working against the spring at those tempos.
Yeah,
okay.
sometimes, yeah.
But are you using a full leg motion at those tempos, or is it still?
Yes, probably. Yeah.
Okay, so you worked on that one, like to be able to control the beta at those tempos, and then after 200 BPM, you're already able to play just with your ankles, your calves.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Depends.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about your technique anyways in a couple of minutes. So let's go to the next question. Wait, I got one more question about the pedal settings. Axis pedal settings, you had the Axis A longboards.
Yes.
Like a lot of our viewers own them as well. The VDL,
yes.
Where is it placed?
Around the middle.
Around the middle, okay.
Yeah.
Why? Did you try different?
Yeah, I tried different positions, but the kind of middle range just felt right for me. You know, to play fast, mid, and super slow, and whatever. Just all the tempo range was kind of good for me.
That's it. Have you tried it like in the back position?
Yeah,
VDL?
but that kind of always felt strange to me.
Okay, but I liked it because it feels really heavy, number one, and actually you only need a small foot movement, and the end result is a big beta movement because of the leverage. Okay, but you went for the middle, and obviously it worked out fine for you. And with the Chachi Copito, is there a possibility like the VDL?
There
to set it up?
3 positions, I guess, you could choose of, and I also have the middle one.
The middle one? Okay. Alright, what sticks do you use, and do you prefer lighter or heavier sticks in general?
I prefer heavier sticks in general. And right now I kind of switch between fader and Pro Mark pretty much.
Okay.
And right now I try the 747B with a nylon tip from Pro Mark. They just have a little bit of extra length to it, and they feel great.
I like the Extreme 5B of Vic Firth.
Yeah, really?
And actually this is the stick that I'm using at the moment. Ha! That's the one.
That's the one. Yes.
That's my stick.
That's the one.
Last question of the intro block.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Perfect. Do you trigger your bass drum, and if so, which triggers are you using right now?
Yes, of course I trigger my bass drums. I mean, we're talking about fast kind of music, and I think there's just no way to get a proper bass drum sound without using triggers. So yeah, I use triggers, and I use the pedal trigger system. I used it for Pearl Demon drives, for the Axis, for the Pearl Eliminators, and now for the Chachi Copito. And I've got to say, the triggers for the Chachi Copito are by far the most efficient and best manufactured I had. They just work fine for me.
Yeah, perfect. Did you also try the regular acoustic trigger which you place on the bass drum hoop?
Yeah, I had them for quite some time actually. And the problem I had with it was that I had to muffle the bass drum so much that obviously you couldn't get a good sound out of it by itself. And yeah, that's why I tried to find a trigger which you could mount on the pedal, like the E-kits or whatever. Yeah.
And the pedal trigger system, is it hard to mount it?
No, it's pretty easy actually.
It's easy?
I mean, it's easy for the Chachi Copito.
Yeah.
It was a bit tricky for the Demon drives and for the Pearl Eliminator ones, but for Axis it was also pretty easy.
Okay. Alright, let's start with your hand technique. Which grip are you using when playing fast single strokes with your hands?
I use match grip most of the time. For my right hand, it's match grip, mostly wrist motion, and during some parts I'm mixing some fingers. And for my left hand, I had to get rid of the match grip and now I'm developing the push-pull technique because every now and then I got a really sore wrist. I was playing the super fast stuff, and I was looking for a technique that wouldn't cause any problems. So the push-pull technique seemed quite efficient to me, and now I'm working on that.
So are you already applying the push-pull?
Yes, but only with my left hand.
Only with your left hand. So do you have a hard time? Because especially with your left hand, because the left hand is mostly played on the snare, where you want like a clean attack all the time. So was it hard in the beginning?
Yes, very hard, especially following along the right hand. That was probably the hardest part, to really get singles out of it and not unisono strokes. And but it's getting better every day, and feel quite comfortable about it now.
Perfect. Well, it's still a work in progress, but you're getting there, okay? Because it's kind of reverse than what everyone else does, because mostly drummers who use the push-pull use it with the right hand, because it's a bit easier to keep up, like it raises your endurance, you got a bit more power, especially the hi-hat where you don't have a lot of rebound. Okay, but you got it the other way around. Okay, are you planning to switch to the push-pull with your right hand as well, or for now you're gonna...
I'm not sure. For now I don't need it, and especially, you mentioned it, all the different surfaces you're about to play with your right hand. Pretty much hard to do with the push-pull technique, or at least for me it is hard to do. So I kind of probably stick to the wrist motion and just move it around the kit.
Perfect. And for tom fills, you're also going to...
tom fills a bit different.
So,
I would switch back to just wrist motion.
Okay, and then when you play regular blast, you go back to the push-pull with your left hand. Okay, cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you recorded the video already?
Yes.
Which one?
I think it's not published yet, but I've recorded a lot of
otherwise
videos recently. I also recorded 2 albums actually with all push-pull technique.
Okay.
So
it works.
It works, and you probably will see some of that stuff pretty soon.
Perfect. All right. Are you using a mix of wrist and fingers?
Yes, with my right hand.
And
push-pull technique is actually wrist and fingers, I guess.
Maybe.
So
it is, Okay, perfect.
I use a mix.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're one of the few guys who's able to play really fast, and your technique looks, to me actually, it looks like you're using German grip. So the back of your hand is facing up all the time, and usually the kind of stuff that I see every day is like, okay, French grip with a lot of finger involvement. Actually, for you, it's the total opposite. It's a lot of wrist and German grip all the way, and it works out just great.
I guess it's because of my background.
The marching band background? Okay, I guess so too, How did you start working on your hand speed and endurance when you first started off? And please explain some exercises you did when you first started out.
I can't explain any exercises. I'm a bit lazy when it comes to a proper practice routine, which is also because of my background. I spent so much time practicing on the pad that I really hated it. And so whenever I got the chance to sit behind the kit, I would just mess around and freak out and enjoy the time behind the kit. So actually I spent back in the days like 2 to 4 hours a day behind the kit.
And that's a lot.
And I just played drums, and that's how I improved my technique.
Perfect. But when you practice, like, let's say your focus is, double bass. No, not double bass. Let's focus on blast beats right now. Okay, you focus on blast beats, and I want to cover this Nile song, for example, like you did. Okay, and the song is at 250 or 260 or whatever, and your limit right now is 240. Would you start like playing blast beats really slow, like let's say really like 140, 150, 160, and work your way up the BPM ladder?
Yes, I guess I actually did. I mean, I did it without a metronome at first.
Okay, really?
I just had to figure out which kind of tempo felt right for me to start off. And from that kind of point, I just kept pushing the limits. Okay,
but when you practice for, like, let's say for a YouTube drum cover, do you practice the song at a slower tempo, or is it like, okay, I need to blast for, let's say, 16 bars in this section, so I'm working on, at least 32 bars at lower tempos to get it down really tight, and then work your way up the BPM ladder?
Not so much. I mean, it depends on the song, but normally I only slow the songs down if I have to work on a certain fill-in or something, where I really need to check out where are my hands going, my feet, and whatever is going on. And usually when it's about super fast stuff or parts where I need a lot of stamina, I would just sit down at home, probably in front of the TV, and do single strokes for like half an hour, an hour.
On the pad?
Yeah, on the pad.
So you are practicing?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
okay.
something I have to do, probably.
Okay, yeah. Obviously. Yeah, but the thing is, since you started working on your technique as a little kid, like 6 years old, now you got the chance to practice in front of the TV, because actually normally I don't recommend practicing in front of the TV if your technique is not perfectly stored to your muscle memory. Yeah. Because otherwise you're gonna learn some bad stuff, bad habits, and this is gonna hinder your progress. Yeah. Okay, but for you, since you got the background,
but I gotta mention, I had, when I was rehearsing at my parents' basement, I installed all mirrors on the opposite wall of my drum kit, so I could really watch myself playing and see if I'm sitting upright or if I'm leaning in whatever direction and if my hands are moving the right way, and so that helped a lot actually.
That's interesting. I also read, I watched your YouTube videos obviously as preparation for this drum technique podcast, and I think it was the Cattle Decapitation cover where one guy wrote, it's fun to watch you play and your posture is amazing, like that you're really sitting up straight and you're not like hanging around. Okay, perfect. So the practice tip with a mirror is like worked out well for you, obviously. Double bass full technique at slow and mid tempos. Let's dissect your technique at those tempos for a bit. Are you using a mix of hip flexors and calf muscles, or is it just hip flexors at tempos from 0 to 160 beats per minute?
I'd say it's probably all hip flexor muscles. And like Eric just pointed it out, I'm just stomping my feet.
Just stomping your feet, okay, yeah.
That's it.
So only hip flexors.
Yeah.
But probably. How did you start working on that? Was it on the pedal? Because you can also practice that stuff on the floor without the pedal.
Yeah. I guess it was on the pedal.
On the pedal?
Like I mentioned, I was just playing drums.
Yeah, okay.
And I really enjoyed it that much that I just kept playing and just doing whatever I could to make it sound good.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the thing is, what advice would you give someone? Because I get a lot of emails from drummers who are stuck, like let's say at 140. Yeah. And the thing is, at that certain point, around 140, 150, they all tend to, their hip flexors are a bit too slow for, let's say, 150. So their calf muscles tend to take over, and that's when they lose control. Yeah. And that's when there's a transition. Okay.
For me, the seat height is the point. Yeah. So I tried all kinds of things, and right now, I need a second stick. Probably it's the 90-degree thing is a good place to start. But right now I'd say
90 degree from your lower leg to your upper leg.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's probably like this. But right now I moved my chair a bit up and also backwards.
Okay.
And that's how I got rid of the problem with the hip flexors and calf muscles.
Perfect advice. Yeah. So actually your hip flexors, your hip joints are always higher than your knee joints.
Yes.
Even if you lift your feet for playing double bass, they're always higher.
But just a bit.
Just a bit,
not too much.
Full technique at faster tempos. How did you work on your control and endurance at tempos from 180 up to 220 BPM? And I ask this question because I know that up to 200 BPM you're using your hip flexors. And at a certain point you need to use a mix of hip flexors and calves, and then only your calf muscles. Yeah. How do you work on that stuff, and especially the control at that tempos?
I'm still working on that one, especially because I don't have that much time to practice right now. So my weak foot, which is obviously the left foot, kind of sucks right now. And same thing as ever, I try to spend as much time behind the kit as possible. And I don't isolate certain rudiments or patterns or whatever. I really just try to keep balanced and just play. And whenever I feel like I need a break, I just take a short break and just continue playing.
Since you just mentioned your left foot, do you practice with your left foot, like eighth notes and holding a backbeat?
Not so much. I try to lead every now and then with my left foot during songs or when I have a band practice or whatever, just to kind of get used to the feel. The right foot is kind of resting and the left foot is doing the job. So it changes your balance a bit. And that's sometimes it feels weird. So I try to lead with my left foot.
Okay, perfect. And since you mentioned like you don't have that much time to practice nowadays, how much time per week do you spend just practicing double bass?
Right now, because it's the summer break, I pretty much could spend a lot of time. I actually, the last couple of days, I was rehearsing drums for like 1 or 2 hours a day. But I spent most of the time learning new songs and stuff, not just focusing on double bass technique. But I did some rehearsing sessions only for my double bass technique, but that was when I was 17 or 18 or something. So yeah, I don't spend that much time at all.
Okay, so
right now.
And actually when you start practicing a new song for a new cover or like for your band, that's the time when you also spend time practicing double bass. Okay. Next question. Explain some of the workouts and exercises you did to reach tempos above 240 beats per minute.
Again, I think the key was for me the position of the chair. So the right seat height and the right ankle from knees to the ankle downwards. And I just kept playing singles with my right foot and my left foot, then together combined it, and that's it. I don't have any proper practice routine for that kind of stuff.
Okay, but when you, let's say, you want to work on tempos above 240 BPM, let's say, okay, the metronome is now at 250. Would you focus on endurance at those tempos, or would you like play like short bursts or 1 bar of double bass, then stop again? Because obviously you also have to push your limits if you want to play a song at 260, for example.
I do the short amount of time where you really keep pushing, then rest, and then push again and rest, and and also don't forget to warm up properly. That's also kind of
that's important. True. And how does a usual David Diepold warm-up session look like?
Probably I would do some jumping jacks, I guess they're called, and maybe some push-ups.
Okay, so you're not warming up at the drum kit?
No, not really.
Okay.
I also do the Giorgio Meyer kind of clap thing. And I have a power ball for my wrist.
Perfect.
And that's pretty much it.
And after that, you're good to go at 240?
Probably above.
Perfect. Okay,
Thanks
great.
to push-pull and heel-toe. It's all cheating, you know?
No, it's not. Swivel technique. I know that you're using a hybrid between heel-up double bass and swiveling, especially with your left foot. Could you explain this motion in detail? Because it looks like you either swivel from right to left after 2 bass drum hits at some videos, and at some other videos it looks like you're swiveling from left to right after 3 or 4 bass drum hits.
Exactly. It's not really a swivel motion technique whatsoever at all. It's basically just ankle motion. And swiveling just helps me keep the pulse, every second beat or every third beat if you're in a triplet feel or whatever. And it also helps me to be able to play for a longer amount of time, because obviously you're using slightly different muscle groups, and that kind of helps keep you're able to play.
Perfect. But you're mostly swiveling with your left foot.
Yes, that kind of naturally fell into place, and I just wanted to be able to control it. I didn't really felt like I need to learn the real swivel technique, which is more or less a down and up stroke, I always felt comfortable with the ankle motion.
It worked out great for you. But that's interesting. Actually, it's also interesting for everyone who is watching and listening to this stuff right now, because actually this helps you keep your timing, because but you're using in-ear, right? So you hear the trigger signal. Do you have the same bass drum sound with the right and the left?
Okay, so I know the video where you mentioned that you have different sounds for left and right kick, but I used the swivel motion to keep the pulse.
Okay, and so you are able to keep. And is it a big difference for you if you switch after every third stroke or after every second? So is it more difficult like to play 2 strokes per side?
3 strokes actually feel easier in a way. I can't explain really, but they feel easier than 2 strokes or 4 strokes.
Okay.
I don't know why, but
perfect. But if someone wants to try that stuff, since you're only using it with your left foot, would you recommend to start practicing like in the triplet feel, because the 3 strokes per side are a bit easier?
Maybe, yes. I think it depends on what your left foot's doing. When I started out, it was just moving around all over the place. I had no control over it. So I just tried to, I think at first I started off with 4 strokes per side, and then 2 strokes. And whenever I got into a triplet field, I just use the 3 strokes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one. When you start and stop a bass drum pattern, do you press your bass drum beater against the bass drum head or do you stop right before the bass drum head?
Hardest part for me, I try to stop before the bass drum head because obviously I'd get missed triggers or double triggers or whatever if I kept pushing against the head. And that's, especially with my left foot, that's something I really need to work on right now to get back in shape and be able to control it at whatever tempo range I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, also because you're using a really high spring tension.
Yeah.
So it's extremely difficult like to really bury the beater.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're gonna get some double triggering. Okay, but just for example, someone watches this video out there or listens to the podcast and he or she is using a medium to low spring tension and he's used to burying the beater into the bass drum head and he wants to use the pedal trigger system.
Yeah.
Is it possible to play that way with the pedal trigger system without getting a double trigger if you like really bury the beater?
I guess it should be possible, yes. Yeah. It really depends on how you set it. You know, if you have, for the pedal trigger system, you have the nail, or the newer ones have a sort of a metal plate. And if you just adjust it right so that the nail or the metal plate won't hit the trigger when you're resting the beater against the head, then it should be doable.
Okay.
I guess. Never tried it. But
okay.
Probably it will work.
Perfect. Good advice for everyone who's using, because not everyone is able to play with a really, really high spring tension.
Yeah.
So, double bass practice. Do you ever get fatigued and tired? And if so, do you take days off of drumming?
Yes, I do take a lot of days off drumming. Yeah. When I first started teaching, I kind of felt like I need to keep up that practice routine, you know, rehearsing every now and every other day or every second day or whatever, and spend a lot of time behind the kid. But that just didn't work out. You know, both things, working at school and rehearsing and private life and stuff, that just won't work, or it didn't work for me. So now I kind of try to find a healthy balance between work and private life and rehearsing. And since I'm able to use heel toe, I'm not struggling that much to get back in shape, because I really don't care if it's cheating or not. Whatever technique you can use to make it sound good, use it. Go ahead.
Yeah, perfect.
So yeah, pretty much right now I'm not that efficient when it comes to practicing or rehearsing. If I have some time, I will do it, but if I don't have some time, it won't bother me too much.
Okay. Yeah. For the audience, David is a teacher at an elementary school. Yeah. So this means he's working 5 days a week. So let's say, not right now because right now there's summer vacation, but let's say a typical week where you're like teaching in school. Yeah. Do you find time to practice 3 times a week, 2 times?
Not really. I mean, it always depends. There are some times during the school year where I will probably won't rehearse for like 1 month or 1.5 months even. Well, because there's just so much going on in school where I can't find the energy actually to go and rehearse. I probably would have time, but if I'm not in the right mood and not really well, I just won't spend the time rehearsing because it's way too exhausting and not satisfying, and so I wouldn't just do it. Okay. But whenever I have the time, I would go and practice, and during the school year, probably all over the school year, I'd say once a week or maybe, no, not twice a week, once a week.
Once a week, okay.
Pretty realistic, yeah.
Okay, and back in the days, when you had more time to practice drums, how many times per week did you practice?
Every day.
Every day?
Really, every
day.
Yeah.
But what if, now for my audience, what advice would you give someone who's practicing every day and now he's stuck at a certain point because he's just tired at the moment he starts to practice drums? How long would you suggest to take off?
As long as you need the time off. I've been there too, and I took probably 3 months off drumming.
3 months? Yeah. Okay.
And I really just focused on my private life and did whatever I wanted to do, and whenever it felt right, I got back to the kit, and then it was fun again.
Okay, cool. And since you mentioned the heel toe technique, let's stick with that topic for a bit. You started using the heel toe like 1 or 2 years ago, am I right? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. How did you start practicing that technique? going through the motion on the floor, starting really slow, or directly on the pedals?
Directly on the pedals. I guess I saw a video of Dave McGraw.
Yeah.
Some live footage.
David is the man.
Yeah, he is. And I kind of tried to copy the motion on the pedals. And I got it down pretty soon with my right foot.
Yeah.
And yeah, after some practicing, I was able to do it. And it is way easier than the ankle motion or whatever other technique.
Hit higher tempos. Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I probably couldn't do it on a chain drive pedal with low spring tension. For the heel toe kind of thing, I really need the direct drive and the high spring tension.
Okay,
And also the light beaters. So that the combination of those three things make it quite easy for me.
Nowadays, are you only using the heel toe or still?
No, I
like-
kind of switch back and forth between it.
Yeah.
So normally if I start a practice session, I'd use the heel toe kind of thing to warm up.
Okay.
And as soon as it feels right, I switch to ankle motion and yeah.
Okay, because you mentioned your left foot before that, because your right foot was faster when it comes to learning the heel toe.
Yeah.
Did you practice like, let's say, rudiments like inverted doubles as well, or like doubles leading with the left foot? No, it was just
Never.
regular doubles, right, left,
Yeah.
left.
I'm kind of like George Collier's said it once. I guess you've got to train your left foot to follow your right foot in order to you know, start off right away and really make it smooth.
Yeah.
So I never did too much exercises with leading with my left foot or inverted doubles or whatever you mentioned.
Okay. And when it comes to dynamics and sound, obviously you hear a difference between singles
Yes.
and doubles, and you should hear it because it's a different sticking. Did you work on the dynamics as well? Because, you know, sometimes when I hear someone play heel toe double bass, I think sometimes it sounds a bit unsatisfying, let's call it that, because the first hit is really loud and actually all you're hearing is regular 16th notes with some small hits in between.
Probably I'd have to say I don't care because I'm using triggers. But since I use very light beaters, I use the ACD unlimited beaters, which are
from Carinthia.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Dennis.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dennis.
He's the man.
That's crazy. Dennis grew up like 30 minutes away from the place where I grew up.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we never met till now.
Crazy.
But maybe one day we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. And ever since my first hit got quieter and my second hit got louder in a way, so it sounds more even. Just
Okay,
because
with
of
the
the weight
light
of the
beater.
beater. Yeah.
Okay, but with his beaters are called the dynamic beaters.
Yeah.
And you can also add some extra weight. So
you could.
Can you please explain? You don't add any
No.
weight. Okay, so it's like the lightest version possible.
Yeah.
Okay, and this works fine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's also a great tip for everyone who's using the heel toe. Maybe try to use a really light beater, just maybe to balance the two strokes a bit. Perfect, thank you. It's a good tip. Next one, are there any non-drum related exercises you do in order to stay in shape at the drum kit?
I do a lot of hiking actually.
Yeah?
But it's not so much because of the physical aspect of it, it's more because I just like to enjoy nature and explore different places and that kind of stuff.
Do you go to the gym?
No.
No?
Never.
No squats?
No.
How much do you bench?
Probably, I don't know.
The bar.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. How do you warm up in a live situation?
Usually I don't warm up too much because I never was in the position to know, to start off with a super fast one. Was all kind of intermediate and then, increase during the set.
Yeah.
But for my next sessions, I probably will have to do some exercises and some proper warm up to also nail the first track of the set. And I probably will do some jumping jacks and just single strokes on a practice pad, clapping thing from George Mayer. And I've got a power pole for my wrist. And
so you also bring this one to the shows?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. YouTube and negative comments. David, you've taken the YouTube drumming world by storm with drum covers of bands like Nile, Cattle Decapitation, and many others. At this moment, you got 5.7 million video views on YouTube, which is a lot. Although most of the comments you get are positive and encouraging, there still appears some negative comments about your videos as well, which is totally normal if you got that many video views. How do you react to those comments?
In general, I try to at least read the majority of all the comments. And if there is some criticism I could really work on, I'd probably do it. But if it's just a mean comment, I don't care at all. I got way more important things in my life than to care about those dudes.
That's alright. But actually, yeah, to just think about critique from someone is good, because then you can even improve further.
Yeah, of course.
Which is kind of okay, yeah. That's
But
crazy.
yeah.
Did you ever think about, okay, I got a negative comment, why am I doing all this extra work, practicing, recording the videos, editing? It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Although the song is just 4 minutes long, or like, let's say 5 minutes, so it's a lot of work, and then you get a negative, mean, useless comment. Did you ever think about, okay, maybe it's not worth it for me?
Yes. So yeah, there was the time that I took some months off of playing drums. Actually, there was partly because of some mean comments, and also because I was competing myself too much with all the other great drummers out there, and I just didn't feel like I was making any progress at all. And so yeah, but I took some time off and thought about it, and then I was just like, hell no, I started it because I really enjoyed music and playing drums so much that I wanted to share it with everyone else, and I don't want some fools to make me quit it. It's not worth it.
True.
So.
Yeah, also the one thing that you mentioned before was, don't compare yourself to others.
Yeah.
There's this great quote by Jordan Peterson, which goes like, don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Because then it's
That's
like,
a great
okay,
one,
constant progress, working on yourself, improving your skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
That's the most important thing, I guess.
Perfect. Yeah, actually, if you get negative feedback, you have to at least try to turn it into something positive. Yeah, I got a story about that one as well, because it was like 1 or 2 weeks ago when I got a comment on a bass drum video on YouTube, which was kind of mean, but it was like, okay, you talk about double bass at 250, but I don't see a video of you playing at 250. Then as answer, I posted a video of me playing from 120 up to 300 BPM. Then this guy, his name was Nick G. I'm not gonna say your last name, but if you watch this, I know who you are. And again, really negative. And yeah, if you try to play at 300 BPM, you have to play at least for a minute straight, and so on. At one point, it was not just critiquing, it was like insulting. And then I deleted him, I banned him from the page. And then he wrote me another message on my private Facebook profile, again talking about drumming, and he told me that he's not an internet nerd and not a hater, and wow. And then I had to ban him again. And I was so angry that day. And during the afternoon I had a Skype session with one of my students, and when the session started off, I recognized, okay, I'm still angry because of this one guy, but now I'm having a great time with my student. Why am I still angry? And what I did then, because I tried to turn this negative thing into something positive, is that I told my students about that story, and then I said, okay, since I want to give something back to the drumming community and to you as my student, I'm going to double the drum lesson. So it was not 60 minutes, it was 120. He was happy, I was happy afterwards again. So I'm not going to give drum lessons for everyone who's now starting to, if you all start critiquing me, but still, yeah, what a lot of people don't seem to see is, if you're putting yourself out there, honestly, if you're playing, it's your face in front of the camera, constructive criticism is something really good.
Yes.
But like just hating and bad mouthing and all of that stuff, it's not gonna help you. That's number one. It's not gonna help someone else. It's not gonna help the community.
Yes, exactly.
So, okay, but like that, turning it into something positive, that's great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Second to last question. What are your plans? Like gigs, tours, studio sessions and YouTube videos for the rest of 2018?
Okay, like I mentioned, I did some session work previously. I recorded 2 albums, each one was like 8 songs. I did 3 EPs, all with 45 songs, and I shot some drum playthroughs whilst all of those sessions.
Yeah.
So there are probably will be at least 7 or maybe even 8 playthroughs from those sessions. I also recorded 2 drum covers, and I started working and preparing myself for some other drum covers as well. So there will be some new stuff hopefully pretty soon. As far as touring, I'm not sure if it's possible for me to really become a touring drummer, because I really enjoy being a teacher and, you know, having a good job with a good amount of salary, and I can make a living out of, and so I don't see a point of making or becoming a tour drummer. But for session works, pretty much depends on whatever gig it is. Right now I'm preparing myself for some gigs with Monument of Misanthropy. And
from Vienna.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, and I probably will do some more recording sessions during the summer. Yeah. So there should be plenty of new stuff.
Regarding your YouTube covers, because I already see the comments coming on this one. Do you want to name them already?
I could.
Yeah, if you want to, but you don't have to.
It's some super fast stuff from Anar Natrak. Some Despised Icon.
Yeah, okay.
Some
MVP.
Slipknot. No, not MVP.
Okay, some Slipknot?
Some Slipknot and some Aborted.
And Aborted from the new record?
I have done one from the older ones, but I'm not sure if I should upload it right now or wait for the new record and then do something off of the new album. We'll see.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I also did some black metal stuff.
Okay.
Some super fast black metal stuff. You can guess whatever it is.
My guess is Dark Funeral. Okay, perfect. We are almost done. Okay. Thank you, David, for being here, the Drum Tuning Podcast.
Thanks for the interview.
It's an honor. Yeah. Your final words for our audience.
Thanks to everyone who supported me over the years. That really, really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. And like I said, don't compare yourself too much with others. Stay focused, stay relaxed, find a healthy balance between your life or your social life and your music career or whatever you're trying to achieve with it. And if you want to improve, get a lesson from Marthyn.
Thank you.
He's the man.
I didn't pay for that.
And yeah, go practice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In this example, you can see David playing at 150 BPM. Right now he's just using his hip flexor muscles, so his calves are not assisting this motion. At faster tempos, David is just using his calf muscles. His hip flexors are not involved in this motion. Since David is using such a high spring tension, he has to place his foot a bit further back on the pedal. This way it's easier to control the pedal at those tempos. Once David passes the point of 220 beats per minute, his foot is placed more to the front of the footboard. This way he is able to shorten the stroke a bit. Still, each stroke is just generated by a contraction of his calf muscles. I was really impressed when I saw David play at high tempos. We've recorded these short examples right after recording our podcast, so David had no time to warm up. Still, he was able to demonstrate the side-to-side motion when playing really fast. In this example, he is playing 2 strokes per side, and remember, he described it as regular heel-up technique and not as the swivel technique. With this lateral motion from left to right, it's just easier for him to stay on the click. This is a really cool hack for everyone who needs more control at higher tempos. Big thank you goes out to David for showing his technique. Right here you see his side-to-side motion with 3 strokes per side. Okay, that's it for the second episode of the Drum Technique podcast. The thing that I found really interesting was how David manages to use a side-to-side motion of his foot, which is not the same thing as the swivel technique, to be able to play perfectly tight at higher tempos. I've already got a couple of drummers in mind who I want to invite to be a part of this, so don't forget to subscribe to this podcast to make sure you don't miss the next episode. You can also find this podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so make sure to follow us there as well. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to comment below if you want a certain drummer to be a part of this Drum Technique podcast. Until next time, cheers from Vienna. Bye.